Good evening. Happy Friday, y'all. We made it. It's the end of the week. I am your host, Shameika Rhymes. And as you know, this is Soulibration. I know it's probably throwing you off that we're on a Friday, but there's a good reason. It is World Sleep Day, y'all. So we are going to talk about that. But first, I want to know where you guys are watching from. I see Charlotte in the building. Hey, Lapri. Thank you for tuning in. Hello, Asheville. I see you too. But also let me know how you're doing this evening. Remember to share this with your network. And if you have any questions at all tonight, drop it in the chat because you know y'all are my co-hosts. So I'll be absolutely checking to see what you guys are talking about. And oh, I see you, Lapri. You need a nap. So do I. So March is Sleep Awareness Month, and this week was actually Sleep Awareness Week as well. And like I mentioned, March 14th is World Sleep Day. So we're diving into the power of quality rest. Let me know in the chat, do y'all have issues falling asleep and staying asleep or just even going to bed, period? Let me know about that too, because sleep is essential for our health. Yet so many of us are struggling with getting enough of it. So tonight we're going to talk about how sleep impacts overall well-being, common sleep disruptors, an expert approved strategy to improve your sleep quality. I'm excited about this because y'all, I don't know about you, but stress, anxiety, all the things make you not go to sleep. Anyway, so we're going to also talk about the importance of a bedtime routine, to the truth about sleep aids. So we're going to cover all of the things. So, make sure you tell your friends, tell your mom and them, come on over here and watch Soulibration tonight. So let me introduce you to tonight's guest, Dr. Funke Avalabi. I'm messing her name all up. Afolabi Brown is a triple board certified sleep physician, and she is the founder of Restful Sleep MD. She's also a best-selling author of Beyond Tired, that's me, a sleep physician's guide to solving your child's sleep problems for good. And she obtained her sleep medicine training at the University of Pennsylvania. Let's welcome our guest tonight. Hi, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome. I see in the chat, there's already a lot of chatter about everybody having issues with sleep. So we are so glad you are here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yes, let's see. We've got, I see you guys, Queen City. I see New York in the building in the chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So let's start this off, Doctor, with why is sleep so crucial for overall health? And what happens to our bodies when we don't get enough of it?
Yeah, no, that's a great place to start. I mean, we all know what it feels like after a bad night of sleep, right? Already you start to feel that fogginess. You might feel irritable. You might have like a little bit of a dull headache. So those are things that can happen right away. So for one thing, sleep helps with restoration. So without good sleep, you don't feel restored. You don't feel rejuvenated. You don't feel refreshed. And you start to feel that right away. Sleep is important for everything about us, literally, and I might be biased, but from the top of our heads all the way to every single system, organ system, every part of our body needs that rest. So, from brain health, right? During sleep, your memory is consolidated. You learn new skills, things that you've been exposed to during the day. You're sort of filing them from short term to long term memory. And your in terms of your heart health, your heart needs to rest. So if you don't sleep well, your heart rate is up, your cortisol is up, and we start to see a lot of issues with people having hypertension, strokes, heart attack, all those kind of things. We hear about Alzheimer's, and so that's something that's been associated with poor sleep. And then another big one that we see is with your metabolism. So you may find out that if you don't sleep well, you have a high cortisol, and so cortisol is supposed to kind of go down with sleep and then, rise as you wake up. But if your body is stressed, either because you don't give it the opportunity to rest, your cortisol stays high, or you have something wrong with your sleep that keeps making it fragmented, your cortisol also stays high. If you have a high cortisol, it affects every part of your body. It affects, again, your hormones, your blood pressure, so many systems. And so and I think the mental health piece is big too, right? Anxiety, depression, all of those things are worse when we don't sleep well. And so it's not just that toddler that missed the nap, that's cranky, irritable in the grocery store because you did not agree to the giant lollipop. Even we are the toddler
Yes.
inside of us when we don't sleep well. So every single part of us really suffers when we don't sleep well.
So that's a good jumping off point because I was thinking about what are some reasons we don't fall asleep. I know for me, after a busy day, my brain, it's like it doesn't shut off. I'm more creative at night. So it's like I'm thinking of, I could be literally I'll lay back down and I'm like, wait, that's a good idea. Then I have to write it down or I'll forget. And then I don't know about, I see in the chat that a lot of people say they have like Lapri says she's got problems staying asleep,
Mm.
broken sleep patterns. And I see, let's see, she just said probably that soda I had before bed. So we could talk about that too, eating before bed. And that Lavelia Williams says it's hard to unwind, but putting on jazz music seems to help a lot. So it's like we're
Mm.
all kind of struggling with getting to sleep. So what are some let's start with the mental health aspect of it.
Mhm.
What could it just be stress that makes us our brains not want to shut off to or slow down so that we can go to sleep? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, that's one big reason, but not only stress. There's sometimes when people say, I don't feel stressed, my mind doesn't seem to be busy, but I just lay there and I cannot fall asleep.
Yeah.
And so, one reason why you might not sleep is if you have insomnia. Insomnia is something that's very common with people where you have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep.
Hmm.
And while stress and is a big reason, anxiety, pain, things like that will contribute. But that mind, what you said about, your mind slowing down. If your
Hmm.
mind is so busy, it's really hard to wind down and relax and go to sleep. So if anything gets in that way, you had a conversation, you were watching something on social media and you got upset. That might not necessarily, or you got excited. So that might not necessarily be stress. But sometimes the things we expose ourselves to just before bed can. Sometimes experiences we had during the day, maybe you sent an email or you got an email that made you really upset, or we call what we call anticipatory anxiety. So it might be that you're either looking forward to something the next day or dreading what's going to happen the next day. That might get in your way of sleep. So with that mental piece, there's so many reasons or there's so many things that plays into it. But at the end of the day, what it ends up creating is that really busy mind.
Hmm.
And then sometimes, if this has been going on for a long time, sometimes you don't even remember what triggered it. Maybe there was a loss of a loved one, a loss of a job, a sudden move, having a baby, whatever, something big happened. And now you're in this spiral where every time you get into bed, your mind, it's like a light comes on and you just really have a hard time falling asleep. So that we really start to talk more around, okay, this is more insomnia than just your I can't wind down kind of
Hmm.
situation.
So I always thought, and I don't know if anybody else in the chat thought this as well, that insomnia was just you were just up, like
Mhm.
that there was no sleep involved. So can you kind of explain what insomnia is? Because I really, and I guess watching too much TV too, I thought, you see it on TV and there's like, oh, insomnia, somebody stayed up for like 3, 4 days.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, that's so true. A lot of people, and have the wrong idea of what insomnia is.
Hmm.
So insomnia, pure definition is you have a hard time falling asleep. So maybe you get into bed at the appropriate time and you cannot fall asleep, or you have a hard time staying asleep, meaning like a lot of women, especially that I know, like I think it was maybe Lapri that mentioned it, like you may fall asleep, but
Yeah.
you just suddenly wake up at 2 a.m. and you're just right, your mind is running a mile a minute. That is insomnia as well.
Oh no, I thought it was perimenopause.
Well, it can contribute. It is a trigger. It can trigger it. Yeah, the changes that happen during perimenopause and menopause that can cause insomnia.
Mhm.
Or you wake up super early. Maybe your alarm is set for 6:30 and then 5 a.m. or something, you just cannot fall back asleep.
Mhm.
And this has been going on for maybe, usually we'll say about 3 months. So it's more chronic. There's
Okay.
acute or situational insomnia, meaning you have a big test, a big project, or an interview the next day and you don't sleep. So that's really what we call acute insomnia. But when we're talking about more chronic insomnia or insomnia as a disorder,
Mhm.
it's really going on for a while. And on top of that, it's impacting your day. So if you come and you're like, well, I wake up at from 1 a.m. to 2 a.m., but I totally get enough sleep. I don't have any issues during the day. Life is good. Maybe you don't have insomnia. Usually this leads to some kind of tiredness. from my experience, everybody that has insomnia is tired during the day, hence the caffeine, the soda, the coffee, and things like that. So that's the definition. Now, if you talk about, like, staying up for many nights, I mean,
Mhm.
not necessary. You don't. It doesn't have to get to that level before we know you have insomnia, and it's a very common disorder,
Mhm.
worldwide, I would say.
So how do we fix that? Because I see a lot of people in the chat, and I'm one of those every night between 3 a.m. and just like Lapri between 3 a.m. and 4:30. But mine is always like literally at the same exact time
Yeah,
every night.
yeah,
It's like 3:03 every night.
yeah. Yeah, so there's something we call, and because I'm a sleep physician, I usually want to look at where is this coming from. So there's something we call conditioned arousal, especially if it's been going on for a while. That
Mhm.
means your brain has learned to expect to wake up at that time. It
Okay.
just does, right? If you think about it, for many of us, even when we use an alarm clock is set for 5:30, and then 5:25 you wake up because your brain has become conditioned. So when
Mhm.
you've gotten into the cycle that you wake up every time, like Felicia says, 2:58 to 4:30, it becomes that conditioned arousal. Your brain just knows to do that. And so there are few things, depending, especially because I work with a lot of women. One of the most common reasons is that we have a lot of unresolved things going on, right? So it
Mhm.
might be that, so this is just one example, which is quite common. You may have, especially if maybe you have a very stressful day, a very stressful job, and you've been running nonstop
Mhm.
all day, and then you're exhausted because your sleep drive is high, because maybe you didn't get enough sleep the day before, so you're able to crash, you're able to fall asleep quickly. Like, people will say, well, my head hits the pillow and I fall
Yeah.
asleep, and I'm sure many people can resonate with, like, I don't have any problem falling asleep, I crash, right? And then I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't fall asleep. So here's what's going on. You've your Literally, your sleep drive is like, it's like your sleep tank is full because you've
Mhm.
been awake for so long, and so you just drop. But in the middle of the night, that drive will drop as you sleep, and so
Mhm.
by the time you get to 2 a.m., 3 a.m., that drive is pretty low because it goes down very quickly once you sleep. And so now your cortisol had been high. You were under stress, but you had stuff you didn't have a moment, you didn't have a routine, you didn't have any wind down time to, like, say, okay, what are the thoughts I have in my mind now?
Mhm.
Maybe I should journal them. Maybe I should kind of walk through them. Maybe I should do some meditation just to kind of relax yourself. So you didn't give yourself that opportunity at the beginning of the night. So now that your sleep drive is dropped, it's like all hell breaks loose. Like, those thoughts now come coming and
Uh,
surging. So one quick, and so that will segue to what I usually will recommend to start. It may not fix it all the time, but to start, no matter how busy your day is, have a buffer, a wind down time between, when you've been going all day and when you go to bed. So if your bedtime is 10 p.m., don't just work all the way to 9:58 and then try to sleep.
Are
This
you
is
in
a
my
safe,
house?
this is a safe space. I've been in many people's houses, in their heads, all kind of things. So you need, like, even if it's 30 minutes, whatever, even if you feel exhausted, you're like, I gotta sleep, I don't have time for this. Do yourself that favor. Like, sit with yourself, have a nice bath, drink a nice warm or hot cup of tea just to relax. Do
Mhm.
some journaling. If you're somebody who processes a lot, like you said, Shamika, you write,
Yeah.
you think of brilliant ideas. Have somewhere to put those ideas from your mind onto a piece of paper, so
Mhm.
that you don't feel, because what your brain is trying to do is hold on to those. It doesn't want you to forget them. And so it keeps running
Yeah.
lapses around your brain.
Literally.
So if you put it down, you could tell your brain, okay, sweet mind, we're okay. We're going to conquer the world tomorrow. This is
Mhm.
here. We're not going to forget. And then you could try to sleep. So that's a very easy, practical thing I would say you could start with.
Okay.
And then if you start to find out that you're noticing you're in this pattern where your brain wakes up all the time, if you see that you're waking up very for a long time, it might be worth, number one, don't watch the clock, because there's no point. You're just gonna feel stressed.
Mhm.
Don't watch the clock. Find relaxing activities, even, yes, in the middle of the night, to just kind of calm yourself down again. So
Mhm.
maybe some breathing exercises, some journaling, some meditation, and things like that. And then
Mhm.
when you start to feel sleepy, you can get back into bed. But if you're tossing and turning, it just leads to more frustration. And the
Mhm.
more frustrated you are, it's going to be hard to fall back asleep.
Absolutely. You just reminded me of something, and I don't remember. Actually, I think it was in Grief Share, going
Mm,
through the grief group a couple of years ago. And they were saying if you have like, when you're grieving, and I apply it to just having general anxiety as well, or if something's on my mind that I can't get off, it's like you literally just write everything you're worried about. And then I have a box where I put it all, and
mm,
I just put it in there and I don't go back and look at it. Like, it's like, okay, I got it out of my head. Okay, now I can lay down.
yeah.
And I started doing, and I did a show on this, and you guys can go back and look for that, but it was on EFT tapping. So
Mm,
I'll do that sometimes at night. Actually, I've been doing that the past 2 weeks, and that helps me go to sleep because it's like it's
mm,
calming my nervous system down.
yeah.
Like, because I've been working up till 9:58. So it's like calming down.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I love
yeah,
that. Mhm.
yeah. Laprise says her best friend said read the Bible and that'll do the
Yep.
trick.
Yep. That
Amen.
does help. So meditation, prayer. I think the thing about it is realize like there's no one size fits all. The bottom
Yeah,
line is what helps you wind down. Don't go to bed with a busy mind as
yeah.
much as possible. So
Mhm,
find what helps you wind down. For some people, it's meditation. For some
mhm,
people, it's prayer. For some people, it's journaling or tapping,
mhm,
breathing exercises. Like you need to slow down that nervous system. It's so amped up, so you
mhm.
need to switch from sympathetic to parasympathetic so that you can, you'll be able to fall asleep.
So one other thing, I just thought about this too, and it was a nutritionist that said this once, because I was telling her like, yeah, sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'm hungry, and she said it's because you haven't given your brain enough food to eat throughout the day,
Mm,
like because you're so busy you may not think like, oh, I'll just grab a snack here, grab a
yeah.
snack here, and not eating a meal or
Mm.
several meals or whatever. So what is your advice for when it's a hunger problem is why you
Yeah.
can't stay asleep?
Yeah, and that's a great segue to, because the initial question we were talking about is what really wakes us up and keeps us up. So sometimes it's our
Yeah.
mind. So the mental
Uh-huh.
thing. When we go to the physical thing, there are many reasons. Hunger
Hmm.
pangs. Okay. So if you've not really eaten a full meal like during the day, or at night you didn't really get a full meal, that's one. Or you eat something that's way too sugary, like high in sugar or carbs. What happens there is your blood glucose goes up and then it goes down very, very quickly, versus taking something with complex carbs, taking things that have like high in protein, that will feed and maintain your blood glucose consistently through the night. So you
Hmm.
have to watch what you eat. And then if you go to bed hungry, meaning maybe you have dinner early, it's
Hmm.
okay to have a bedtime. This is what I call the bedtime snack. Okay. So
Hmm.
not a box of donuts, not a bottle of soda, like something small but high in protein. So maybe you could do maybe some slices of meat,
Hmm.
or you could do, I love apples and peanut butter, or
Hmm.
a small bowl of oatmeal, or, things like that, a handful of nuts. That's awesome, right? So take that, and then you could go start your bedtime routine. So this will help you keep that blood glucose constant through the night, so you don't now have this wake up and you're starving. So that's
Hmm.
absolutely something that's very, very helpful. And then, things in your body, and we could, I don't know if that's something we're going to talk about later. Like you might have a medical sleep disorder,
Hmm.
or something, or you might be on a medication. So it's very important to speak with your doctor. If you're waking up frequently, something is going on. And
Hmm.
sometimes I've had clients where they were on medication for blood pressure, and so they took it at night, and it was a diuretic, right? So she was a
Yeah.
black woman, so diuretic makes you go to the bathroom, and she's like, well, I go to the bathroom almost every time, multiple times at night, and I can't fall back asleep. So then
Hmm.
we moved the timing of her medication, and then she was able to stay asleep. So don't forget the medication piece too. That's also something that could be playing a role.
Mm, okay. That brings up a good point, because if you are having to go to the bathroom multiple times a night, and it's not because of medication, it's because you were drinking water up until 9:58
Yeah.
or drinking or tea or
Yeah.
whatever, what what would the solution be? To stop maybe an hour or two before?
Yeah, I mean, the two reasons could happen that can make you use the bathroom frequently in the middle of the night. One is you might have a sleep disorder, so you might have sleep apnea. So sleep apnea
Mm,
is a condition where you have snoring, pauses in your breathing sometimes during the while sleeping. So this is dangerous. This is not good at all because you're getting oxygen cut off through the course of the night, and
oh,
that puts stress on your bladder, and that might make you pee a lot. So that's one.
mhm,
We talked about medication. Yes, if you drink too much water up until when you go to bed, you
mhm.
will probably have to urinate a lot. So, what I would suggest is work on getting enough. The same way you work on nutrition throughout the day, you don't save the ginormous meal to before bedtime, right? Because you've been hungry all day.
Right.
So, the minute you wake up, take enough water, get as much water as possible in you earlier in the day so that maybe about 30 minutes to an hour before bed, you can make sure that you're not taking way too much. You're very thirsty in the evening if you've been dehydrated all day, and if you finally get time to yourself, you might remember, oh my goodness, I didn't take my 8 glasses of or eight,
Hmm.
8 ounces or eight, yeah, 8 glasses of water, and now you're trying to dump it all in. That's not going to help with your sleep. So
Yeah, that's me.
saving it and spreading through the day, that will be
Mhm.
much easier.
Okay. I see
Yeah.
Lynette McCallum has a question. She wants to know what about waking up through the night because of vivid dreams?
Yeah. So vivid dreams are very an interesting concept. If you're waking up frequently from dreams, one of the things we know, which is the very first thing I would say you need to make sure you check out, is to see if you have a sleep disorder, especially a sleep disorder called sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea. The reason why, what's obstructive sleep apnea? That's when you have, again, snoring and pausing in your breathing. What happens is the muscles in your neck are relaxed as you go to sleep.
Hmm.
Women in menopause, they have they have lower estrogen, so that relaxes the muscles even more. And so when you the thing about our sleep is we're going through what we call light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. REM sleep is dream sleep, so that's really when dreams happen.
Hmm.
Now, it's called REM, REM sleep, because it's a stage where it's called, which is rapid eye movement sleep. It's a stage where your muscles are actually paralyzed. So your muscles are paralyzed in dream sleep. And the reason why your muscles are paralyzed in dream sleep is so that you don't act out your dreams. So it's a protective mechanism.
Hmm.
Now, remember I said your muscles are relaxed. So imagine that your muscles are relaxed at baseline because you're sleeping. And now when you get into dream sleep or REM sleep, when your muscles are actually paralyzed, guess what? It's going to make your apnea worse. Apnea, if your brain realizes, oh, you're not breathing while you're in dream sleep, you're going to wake up more. And when you wake up more, you remember your dream more. And so I've seen people have very, in fact, not just vivid dreams, nightmares when they have sleep apnea. So we end up treating their sleep apnea and their nightmares completely resolve. So that would be the first thing I want you to make sure you take care of. Another reason might be to also look at into like maybe trauma experiences, things that have gone on either during the day or in the past that are unresolved. And you may want to talk through that with a therapist and things like that. But the sleep apnea piece, I would say yes. And
Hmm.
whoever has snoring, please, please, please get that checked out. With blacks, often underdiagnosed sleep apnea, and with blacks, we have a higher rate of sleep apnea. So it's unfortunate. And think about it: if you don't treat sleep apnea, you are at risk for again hypertension, diabetes, heart attacks, strokes. Guess who has that more? Our
Wow.
people. So
Hmm.
you see, it's all a cascade. So please, please get that evaluated and treated.
So, what does that look like? How do you treat sleep apnea? Is it a medicine or is it just? I know that there's some people that have the what is it, the CPAP
CPAP.
machines? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first is step if you have snoring or you have a spouse that's snoring, because that tends to be another reason why people wake up if you have a snoring partner. You just want to so rather than so either you or them, just make sure you get evaluated. The way we get that evaluation done is through a test called a sleep study. So this test really is to monitor your breathing during sleep. It's a kit. Many times you could do it at home. It's a relatively simple test. You have wires, you have nasal cannula, and we monitor your breathing maybe over a night, sometimes 3 nights. After that, we can make a diagnosis of whether you have sleep apnea or not. Once that is done, the next step is to talk through treatments. Yes, one of the most common treatments in adults is CPAP. It's called continuous positive airway pressure. And literally, it's a mask that is on your face. It's sealed, connected to a tubing, which is connected to a compressor or pump or the CPAP machine. It's a very small machine. And so what that does is literally it serves as a stent. It pumps air to the back of your throat. Think of a flat tire. You pump it with air. Remember, I
Yeah.
said your airway is collapsing. So this pumps air to the back of your throat so that your brain is not getting cut short of oxygen, so that
Mhm.
your heart rate can rest, so your cortisol can go down. This changes lives. So that's usually what we'll do. And there's usually a whole process for you to get used to it because it's a new thing, whatever. So that's really what, what we would work with in getting that done. There are other treatment options like oral appliances. So this is almost a very customized mouth guard, but it's not a mouth guard. So please don't assume whatever mouth guard you got from over the counter. That's not an oral appliance. That's just a mouth guard. But it's
Mhm.
custom designed to move your jaw forward and keep your airway open so that you don't keep having these apneas and things like that. So that's one. A third treatment is weight loss because a lot of people who are overweight or obese are at risk for having obstructive sleep apnea. So weight loss, whether it's by diet and exercise, now we have weight loss medications which have been so helpful in treating obstructive sleep apnea as well. So that might be something to consider also. And then there's like surgery and other treatment options, but those three are usually the most common ones.
Now wait, surgery? What are you operating on?
Yeah, well, different types of surgery. So with surgery, you have to think about. So with remember I said your airway is collapsing. So sometimes there
Uh-huh.
might be structures in your airway, like tonsils. You know those
Oh,
tonsils that we
okay.
get taken out when we're kids. Well, some adults have big tonsils, and it gets in the way, and it makes that airway more crowded. So sometimes it would be
Mm,
you would see an ear, nose, and throat doctor to take those tonsils out. Sometimes you might have a deviated septum, so your
mhm.
nose may be a little crooked, so they can
Yeah.
fix it.
I got
um,
that.
and then there's also, you might have heard of Inspire. Inspire therapy, it's like a pacemaker that's wired under your skin, and it's connected to some wires again that's connected to the muscles in your neck, and it contracts to open up your airway. So that's a bit more invasive, but it's also an option as well.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm was part of the deviated septum team, but I got that fixed.
Good, good, good. And then there's jaw surgery sometimes
Yeah.
as well. They may need to have, actually expand or make your jaw move forward a little bit. So there's quite a number of surgical options too.
Okay. So what role do these pesky screens and the blue light play in our sleep disruption? Because I know for me, I fall asleep with the TV on. I put the timer on, but I fall asleep with the TV on. And I feel like I'm sure some of y'all did the same thing in the chat, or you're scrolling on the phone before you go to sleep, or you're on your laptop till 9:58 or something. What role?
Yeah,
Well, how can we stop doing that?
yeah. So let's talk about the role it plays, and then we could talk about what works because I don't
Okay.
try to say one, and I'm not, listen, technology is here to stay. It has so
Yeah.
many benefits. I mean, look at us having this conversation on a Friday evening, right?
Right.
It's a great thing, right? So we're not going to say throw it all in the trash, right? But understand that screens release what we call blue light, and that blue light is a light that your brain is very sensitive to. There's a hormone your brain releases called melatonin. We call it the hormone of darkness. And
Mhm.
so in darkness, that hormone really is released to let you know it's time for sleep. So when you're on your phone constantly, you're constantly sending messages to your brain that it's bright out, that it's not nighttime. So you're tricking your brain, and that might contribute to why you have a hard time falling asleep.
Yeah.
The other piece is what you're scrolling, right? We're looking for the bottom of Facebook and we're just going, 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 right? And you'll never get there, right? It's what we're also consuming. Sometimes it's stuff that's super exciting, super captivating and activating. And so you might
Mhm.
find it hard to wind down after maybe watching the news, right? You might
Mhm.
find that content. So the content is also a big one. In
Yeah.
fact, some people tell me, oh, they put the blue light filter on their phone so they can consume content. It's still bad, right? Even if you
Yeah.
use the blue light filter, but you're watching something, you're watching TikTok or whatever it is up till
Mhm.
the time when you're about to sleep, you're still gonna have a hard time falling asleep. And then there's also the third thing we call the time displacement, right? I'm sure you've been there where I've been there and I'm a sleep dog, right? Where you're like, okay, I'm just gonna check for some updates on,
Right.
Instagram. Let's go, just a couple of minutes,
Yeah.
and you put your head up and it's an hour later, right? So
Yep.
it's a time suck. And
Mhm.
remember, we were talking about getting enough sleep, so that might be something as well. So
Mhm.
I would say be strategic about how you use technology, right? Don't let it use you, right?
Ooh,
Don't,
yeah.
right? So think about maybe 30 to 60 minutes. I would say at least 30 minutes before bed. You want to start to, again, as part of your routine. That routine could start with, okay, I'm going to go put my phone on do not disturb. I'm going to plug it in a station either outside the room, or if I'm putting it in my room in an area where I don't have quick access to it, right?
Oh,
And then
yeah.
because if it's right next to your bed, you'll be like, oh, what time is it? Let me just check the time. Oops, here
Yep.
I am on TikTok again. How did I get there, right?
My other trick, my watch. I'm like, what? If I put the phone over there, I still got my watch.
Ex-
Still getting the text and
exactly.
whatever else on the watch.
I know. So you need to put it away, like put it away from you. And then, and replace it with other calming things for you. So replace time on the digital stuff, on TV and things like that. Replace it with things that nourish you. So
Mhm.
maybe take a print book or maybe do journaling. I'm a big fan of journaling.
Mhm.
Maybe, talk to a loved one, finally, right?
Mhm.
Maybe
Yeah.
listen to a podcast, something of that sort.
Mhm. Yeah. So one thing we haven't talked about is how much sleep we should be getting. And are there specific sleep needs based on age, gender, lifestyle, any of
Mhm.
that stuff?
Yes, very much so. So two things. There's the quantity of sleep and then there's the quality of sleep. So a lot of what we just talked about will help with your quality, right?
Mhm.
Quantity varies by age. So the National Sleep Foundation and a few other organizations have recommendations that vary by age. So think about babies will sleep anywhere from 14, especially newborns, 14 to 17 hours. Our school age kids will sleep 9 to 11 hours. Our teenagers sleep 8 to 10 hours, and then we as adults usually will say between 7 and 9 hours. So I would say, it's a range. Some people need 7, some people need 9. So really finding your sweet spot, you have to
Mhm.
be honest with yourself. Like, how do I feel when I wake up? Do I need coffee nonstop all day? Am I falling asleep at the wheel? That might mean you need to get more sleep or just get evaluated for any sleep disorder.
What if you need a nap? Just a little 30 something power 30-minute power nap, like,
Yeah.
in the
Naps
afternoon.
are my love language. So I'm
Okay.
all up there with you. So naps are great. Naps give you a boost in your alertness, a boost in your mood. It improves your blood pressure. It's beneficial, but you have to really be cautious about how you take a nap and why you're taking a nap. So if
Ah,
you're taking a nap, say on a Sunday just to relax and wind down, that's fine. But if you're someone who's had trouble sleeping, and you're using a nap to fix that, I would say that's working backwards. You need to figure out, why do I have trouble sleeping so much so that I need a nap during the day? And then if you do want to take a nap, I would recommend that, like you said, keep it as a power nap. So usually between 20 to 30 minutes tops. Because if you
mhm,
sleep for way too long, your sleep drive is going to drop and
mhm,
it's going to be hard for you to fall asleep the next night.
mhm,
And then also, you want to try to avoid taking a nap too late in the day. So I usually will say by, especially for adults, by probably 2 p.m., you want to be done with a nap because you need to build your sleep drive again to be able to sleep well at night. If, for instance, you have a bedtime of maybe 10 p.m.,
mhm.
probably about 2 p.m. or so, 2 max 3 p.m., you want to be done with any type of nap and you want to keep it short and sweet.
So I was like, now, sometimes my naps aren't until after work, which it would be like at 4.
Oh,
But then I know I'm going to yoga or I'm doing this show. So it's like I'm just
a
resting
boost.
and being quiet because it's like,
Yes.
this is the only time I have to be
Yeah.
still. And
Yeah.
sometimes I don't fall asleep. I didn't today. I was watching Netflix, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's
So,
like I just need to calm down
yeah.
from the day for a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah, and I think this
Yeah.
is the thing. This is one thing I really am always very adamant about when it comes to sharing information about sleep. There's
Yeah.
no cookie cutter way. You
Ah.
find what works for you, right? Like,
Mhm.
you have a performance, you're going to work out. You need to almost like top your tank a little bit. And
Mhm.
so, if you I will just keep it short. Don't do like an hour long
Yeah.
thing because you will have a hard time falling asleep at night, you
Hmm.
know? So I
Hmm.
think that's just, you find what works for you and you
Yeah.
stick to it as long as it's not contributing to a very hard time falling asleep at night.
Well, what are your thoughts on natural sleep aids? Whether it is, I think you did mention tea, but what kind of tea? What do you think about magnesium? Someone told me about some magnesium spray, which I thought worked, but then I was like, did it work? I don't remember if it worked or if it's just I wanted it to work so bad that I said it felt like it worked. Maybe it's
Yeah.
a trick. Or the melatonin, just the different sleep aids we find over the counter. What do you think about those things?
Yeah. So with sleep aids, I think many times it's a placebo effect, meaning that, oh, you're taking something and it's going to
Hmm.
help you up. When I talk about tea, I take tea. I love like chamomile, lavender tea. It's very soothing,
Hmm.
but I'm not using it to sleep. I'm using it to calm my nervous system. So I think it's all about what's the intention,
Hmm.
right? So if you have magnesium, maybe you use Epsom salt because it has magnesium for a bath to help kind of calm yourself down, calm your nervous system. There's nothing wrong with that. When it comes to the actual supplements like melatonin, again, L-theanine, GABA, all of those things, I think it all boils down to why you're using it. If you're just using it kind of like, how we take supplements to boost our nutrition, you're just like, okay, I
Hmm.
just want to boost my sleep a little bit. There's really nothing wrong with it. But if you're using it to try to fix a sleep disorder, right? You're having insomnia, you're having sleep apnea, you're trying to pop a supplement that someone sold to you, I
Hmm.
would say step away, get evaluated, right? So again, it comes back to why. So, you know, for instance, magnesium, many of us are deficient in magnesium. We just don't have enough in our
Yeah.
typical diets that will get us enough magnesium. And magnesium has been shown to help with, again, calming that nervous system, relaxing your muscles. And some research has been shown that it actually helps a little bit with sleep as well. But
Hmm.
your intention is, well, I'm just using it to supplement my sleep overall rather than try to use it to fix or cure a sleep issue. There's a
Hmm.
difference there.
So what about like for those of us that are in that perimenopause menopause phase where your doctor has given you some progesterone because it's supposed to help with sleep. And I don't know about you ladies, but for me, I'm like, when is it gonna kick in? Some nights it hits me like that. It's like it's all I can do to run to the bed. But some
Yeah.
nights it's like I'm just like wide awake waiting for it. It may not kick in till an hour, hour and a half, maybe two, three later. But
Mhm.
so what about those instances where you're taking an HRT to help with because of
Yeah.
the drop in progesterone, estrogen, and all the
Yeah.
things?
Yeah. So menopause, perimenopause is a part
Hmm.
of what can contribute, but it's not the whole.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think that's the thing. Like there are parts of it, right? If your progesterone is low, your estrogen is low, yeah, you'll have some dips and fluctuations in your sleep.
Hmm.
And so it may help, but you may actually also have insomnia. So it
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I'm just going to do this and it's going to fix, you know, all my sleep issues, right? So I think that's really important, like the understanding behind that. And it helps with things like, the hot flashes. A
Hmm.
lot of women have hot flashes, and sometimes the reason why they start to have that spiral is because of the hot flashes or
Hmm.
because of the night sweats.
Oh
So
yeah.
when they take it, it may curb that, and if that's what the reason why they were waking up was, then they're fine. But if they have extra things going on, like the
Hmm.
busy mind, like, I
Yeah.
mean, there's no medicine that, like, unless they give you anesthesia to like just knock you out completely. Your mind is busy. Your mind is busy. You gotta work through some of those things.
Okay. So, so oftentimes you hear people say, "Yeah, I'm good. I'll just catch up on sleep this weekend." What are your
Oh,
thoughts on that phrase?
oh,
And is that true? Can you catch up on sleep that you have lost through the week?
sleep
Like,
like this is what.
we lost an hour this week. Can we
Yeah,
regain that hour this weekend?
yeah, yeah. So this is what I say, that sleep is not a bank. You can't like deposit and hope, okay, I'm just gonna withdraw whatever. So you cannot completely recover from lost sleep. And I'm saying it with caution.
Mhm,
Partially, you might, right? If you lose an hour here, an hour there. But if you do the math, right? Think about it. Maybe you're somebody who only gets 6 hours or 5 hours during the day, assuming you are, an adult. So you need 7 hours a week. So 7 times 7, right? Maybe 49 hours total. Maybe you're a
Yeah.
7 hour sleeper and you're only sleeping 5 hours during the week, right? So you're deficient 5 by 7. You're deficient like 14 hours. Where are you going to fit that in practically to be able to catch up? But if you have
Yeah.
maybe one night here, one night there, where maybe I slept a little bit and then I'll try to catch up maybe by 1 extra hour or 2 hours,
Yeah.
then that's possible. But to have that mindset of, oh, I'm just going to sleep poorly during the week and try to catch up, you're not going to be physically able to do that.
Okay. What advice do you have for the workers that, people that have those odd work hours?
Mm,
For example, I used to have to work from 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. And so it was very difficult. That's probably why my sleep is jacked up now,
mm,
but that 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. Then you get off work and you're like, well, I'm not going, straight to sleep. I've got
yeah.
some things to do. You go to sleep, but it ends up becoming like you're napping because you might
Mm,
sleep 3 hours, maybe four. Then you
mm,
got to get up and live life, run, do
mm,
whatever it is. I would go exercise, then come
mm,
back and try to be in the bed by 8 o'clock. But then I may not fall asleep till 10. Then it's time to
mm,
get right back up and be back at work at 1. So for those
mm,
cycles or those that work overnight, or those that work second shift, what
mm.
tips do you have for them to help their sleep get on track? Because
Yeah. No, that's a big one. Shift work is a huge issue with so many people.
hmm
So typically what I recommend is protect your sleep the best you can. Just try to aggressively protect yourself because you know you will probably be short on sleep.
hmm
So things like, at the beginning of your shift, make sure you try to take a nap. So if your shift starts at 1 a.m., sorry, if you're working like you said like 1 a.m. to 9, right? So if
hmm
your shift starts, you probably may want to say take a nap before you start your shift. Okay.
yeah,
Just to build up a little bit of energy and alertness, right? And
hmm
so once you start your shift, bright lights, you may take a little bit of caffeine, whatever.
hmm
Towards the end of your shift, right? Maybe close to the second half of your shift, you want to start avoiding very bright light because you're going to try to go to bed um, opposite your circadian rhythm, meaning that it's opposite your internal clock. Your body is
hmm
like, wait, why are we working right now? And then you're like, let's go to sleep. Wait, why are we sleeping right now? Right? It's so confused. So you want to start to almost trick your body to say, okay, it's actually bedtime,
hmm
And so you want to try to keep your bedroom as dark as possible. You go home, avoid. This is what I mean by you have to be a little bit selfish. You got to
hmm
protect your sleep, especially with shift workers. You go to bed as you go to bed right away. Don't do groceries, delegate that or do it over the weekend or when you're
hmm
off, right? Just find a different time. Go straight to bed, take a shower, have a mini routine, keep that room dark with a not do not disturb sign on the door. Keep
hmm
it really cool. A very cool room is so important
Ah,
to promote your sleep. You might need to take, so in this kind of situation, sometimes you can take a little bit of melatonin. So that's actually one situation where melatonin could help. And then just try and keep that room as quiet as possible and try to take as long a nap as
hmm
possible. So that's really the best we can do with that.
yeah,
And then, decrease the frequency of nights that you have to do those kind of shifts, right? I
hmm
usually will recommend maybe keep it to about 3 to 4, not more than 4 stretches, so that you
yeah.
can try and sort of reset your body a little bit before you have to go again.
hmm Those were the worst. That was the worst year and
Yeah.
a half of my life
Yeah.
working that shift.
Or if you can, just ask for a different shift.
Yeah,
Advocate. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, because it
Yeah.
was very, very difficult to work that. And I worked in a newsroom, so there was
Mhm.
no calm it down. It was
Oh wow.
nonstop.
On.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So of course, getting off work, your brain isn't going to shut off because you're like, wait,
Yeah.
did I tell so and so to do this, or did I tell that
Yeah.
reporter? All the things.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you suggest on how someone can find a sleep specialist? Is there like a website that people
Mhm.
can go to that they can find out, like, or should they just kind of ask their primary? I don't know if you need a referral or how that works.
Yeah, great question. So, a sleep specialist is just like any other specialist. Many times, well, it depends on your insurance, right? The insurance
Mhm.
dictates everything now in the US. So, based on your insurance, if you don't typically need a referral for to see a specialist, then you wouldn't need a referral to see a sleep specialist. You could just,
Mhm.
hop on the phone and call and schedule. um, you can get a list of people that are, within your network, depending on what your insurance is, to find a sleep specialist. You can also ask your primary, because they might also have like some sleep specialists they work with. There's
Mhm.
a website, it's the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, AASM website, aasm.org. That also has a list of sleep specialists across the US. And so those are ways by which you can. And then another thing you also have to be careful about, the different ways of doing this. Sometimes, you could go through again, your primary. Sometimes you could go directly.
Mhm.
There are different types of sleep specialists. Some do more of the traditional, they see you in like, 15, 20 minutes, kind of make a decision and then they keep moving. Others have a more holistic approach. So also you have to think about, what am I looking for? What kind of care am I looking to get? Because that really will help drive where you go for what.
Okay. And I forgot
Mhm.
to ask this question because since I brought up my watch, but are sleep tracking apps and devices, because I know like with certain watches you can track your sleep, or do you think that's just creating unnecessary stress and drama while you're trying to go to sleep and stay asleep?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times we're obsessed with the data, and so that obsession is what gets in our way of sleep. So if
Mhm.
you're just, again, you track your steps, maybe you track your calories, whatever, it's okay, but it's the intention behind it. So I have people who, as soon as they wake up, their heart is racing. What did my tracker say? What did my tracker say? Right? They are obsessing. So if that's something you're doing, I would say, yeah, you probably need to back off on that and focus on how you feel. But if you're like trying to optimize sleep, right? We've talked about a lot of things today, and you're like, okay, you know what? I want to get on track. I want to get more sleep. I want to increase my
Yeah.
sleep. And you're using the tracker just to see how your trends are. There's nothing wrong
Mhm.
with that. If you're
Okay.
like, you know what, I've been drinking caffeine till super late, and caffeine or coffee is a stimulant, and
Mhm.
I've noticed that my sleep is kind of disrupted. So I want to see what happens when I stop caffeine. So you can use that to kind of give you
Mhm.
direct feedback in terms of your performance. But more important than the tracker is how you feel. Don't forget to pay attention to your body. How do you feel when you wake up? How do
Mhm.
you feel during the day? What's your mood like? Are you irritable? Are you falling asleep while driving? All
Mhm.
those things matter, I would say, even more than the tracker.
Okay. Well, this has been so amazing. You're going to have to come back because I have more sleep questions, and I feel like the people in the chat do too. But I ask everyone this question: what feeds your soul?
What feeds my soul?
Uh-huh.
Time with family,
Okay.
time with family, and then time with myself. I enjoy my company.
Mhm.
And
That's a good
so
answer.
I know, and so like on a Saturday morning, I will sit. I have a recliner, and I just sit there, and I'm just in the present moment, and
Yeah.
that right there sets me up for the whole week, no matter what kind of week I had, and no
Hmm.
matter what kind of week I'm going into. So that's how I get that sort of rejuvenation, in addition to time with family.
You got some great like advice and tips, especially even that sounds like amazing. Just the journaling, all of it. Thank you for these great ideas too. By the way,
Uh,
um, yeah. So, how can everybody find you, especially if they want to pick up your book too?
Oh yeah, yeah. So different places. I'm on social. I'm at Restful Sleep MD. So you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok a little bit. You can find me on Facebook, Restful Sleep MD. And my website is restfulsleepmd.com. So that's pretty easy, restfulsleepmd.com. And so on there, my clinical practice information about my clinical practice is there. The link to my book is there, Beyond Tired. And yeah, all the things. I also have a YouTube channel. So you can find all the links on there.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you again and thank you, co host in the chat. I see Lapri says, great conversation, so many tips and tricks she can already start to use. And
Oh,
she's
that's
going to go
awesome.
back and ask about a sleep study again. So,
Yes,
yay,
please.
Lapri.
Yes, please. That's awesome.
Yeah. So thank you again for coming on Celebration on a Friday night on World Sleep Day. This was great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah. So everybody, for more information about sleep and some other tips and tricks, you can head over to blackdoctor.org. There's articles and resources there. And coming up on Soulibration, we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome and the need that some of us may have for social media validation, especially when we're up late at night posting and scrolling. So, and do you ever feel like you're not measuring up, or that your worth is tied to your likes and comments? We're going to talk about that because you're not alone. So we're going to unpack the pressures of digital approval and how to reclaim your confidence on the next Celebration. So stay tuned. We'll be back on Wednesday, but I want everyone to have a soul-filled weekend. Get outside, touch the grass, whatever, and make sure you go to sleep tonight. You got some great tips from from Dr. Brown. So put those into action. I know I am doing that tonight. So thank you again. And everybody, I will see you guys next week. Have a good night.